Another mystery buried deep in the hills of eastern Washington keeps resurfacing. A bottomless pit said to be a pathway to the paranormal.
Something terrifying lurked in the shadows, caught on camera deep inside Mel's Hole, a mystery that could haunt the world forever.
Mel's Hole is a round pit 9 feet 9 inches in diameter. There's a stone retaining wall built around it that goes down about 15 feet.
Hidden deep in eastern Washington, there's a mysterious, endless pit. It lures curious folks and sparks strange rumors about its secrets. Forget what you've heard. What we've uncovered might just change everything. Brace yourself as we dive into the chilling depths of Mel's Hole, revealing secrets so profound they cling to the soul. The unimaginable depths of Mel's Hole. In a remote corner of eastern Washington, something inexplicable was captured on film deep within the ominous depths known as Mel's Hole. This seemingly infinite pit, cloaked in mystery, has captivated and terrified many. What secrets does Mel's Hole conceal? What horrors lie in wait in its dark heart? What we found at the bottom might just be the beginning of a nightmare we cannot escape. In the peaceful region of eastern Washington, there's a mysterious place called Mel's Hole. It was discovered by a local man named Mel Waters, and this unusual pit seems to go on forever. Since it was found, many strange and unexplained events have been reported around it. Stories of ghostly sightings and secret government activities surround this mysterious hole. Mel's Hole is located on Mel's property, west of a place called Ellensburg on Manastash Ridge. At first, it looks like an ordinary well, but it doesn't serve any useful purpose. Over the years, locals have thrown all sorts of trash into it, yet somehow it never fills up. This made Mel wonder just how deep it really is. Even Mel's dogs are scared of the hole and refuse to go near it. The legend of Mel's Hole spread quickly. By 2017, a group of investigators found the hole and decided to check it out.
Across from me over here is the actual roadway into Mel's Hole. Don't go up that road. Up there a ways is a fence, but you get across that fence, you're in a deep bunch of trouble. It might be that you simply disappear, period.
They lowered a camera into its depths, but what they saw was so terrifying that they had to stop and leave, deciding it was too dangerous to continue. But that wasn't the worst part. Mel's Hole is not just any ordinary pit. It's a large circle, about 9 feet across, with stone walls going down about 15 feet before plunging into complete darkness. For years, Mel, his family, and even their neighbors used it as a dumping site. Strangely, when things are thrown in, there's no sound of them hitting the bottom, and there's no sign that they ever do, leaving everyone who encounters it completely baffled. Mel Waters, a passionate fisherman, stumbled upon a strange hole one day and became curious about how deep it really was. To find out, he attached a 1-pound weight to his fishing line and let it drop into the hole. To his surprise, even after 4,500 feet of line, the weight hadn't hit the bottom. The depth of the hole remained a mystery, but when he pulled them back up, they were completely dry. Mel was determined, so he dropped almost 10,000 feet of line, nearly 2 miles, but still couldn't find the bottom.
That particular hole was expelling. It's like flushing the toilet, but it blows it up into the sky. All of a sudden it looks like a black flashlight in the day.
He even tried using an incredible 880,000 feet of line, over 166 miles, and yet the hole seemed endless. During his investigations, Mel noticed that his dogs acted strangely around the hole. They avoided it entirely, as if they were scared. The area was also eerily quiet, with no sounds of wildlife, although birds didn't seem to mind flying overhead. Talking to his neighbors, Mel learned that they had experienced odd things too. One neighbor shared a bizarre story about how he threw his deceased dog's body into the hole, only to see the dog alive and well, wearing its collar, wandering in the forest a few days later. When he tried to approach the dog, it behaved as if it had never seen him before, like it had come back from a completely different place. In 1997, people were particularly interested in strange and unexplained stories, and one popular radio show, Coast to Coast AM, hosted by Art Bell, was known for exploring these kinds of mysteries. Feeling puzzled by the hole, Mel decided to share his story on the show, hoping to find answers or connect with others who had experienced similar things. This decision led to an unexpected turn in his life, as his peaceful fishing days turned into a public investigation of the mysterious hole. Things escalated quickly after Mel talked about the hole on the radio, exposing the mystery of Mel's hole. He believed that Art's show, Coast to Coast AM, with its curious and open-minded audience, might offer some answers. Mel shared his story, and soon the mystery of the hole became even more complicated, especially after the government got involved. This was a frequent topic on the show. The U.S. military had taken over, blocking anyone from getting close to the hole. Right after his Friday night conversation on the show, Mel noticed helicopters flying over his property, and this continued the next day. He also realized that the hole seemed to have a strange effect on the environment. Animals avoided it, but the plants around it grew unusually well. Electronic devices acted up near the hole. Radios made weird noises and sometimes picked up stations from far away, or even from different time periods. One time, Mel's radio played songs from decades ago. When he tried to change the station, he heard a broadcast of a baseball game from 1967. During Mel's first call with Art, which lasted about an hour, Mel was in Ellensburg. But when he tried to go home afterward, the military stopped him, saying there had been a plane crash on his property, though there was no evidence of one. They wouldn't let him in, claiming they needed to inspect the area first. When Mel insisted on speaking to someone in charge, a man in civilian clothes hinted that Mel might no longer own his property and suggested he could face legal trouble if he pushed back, including accusations of illegal activities like drug production.
When Mel Waters returned from town, the access road to his property was blocked by armed military personnel.
Mel, undeterred, threatened to go to the press, but the man just laughed, saying no one would believe such a crazy story. As Mel's story spread, more and more people began speculating wildly about the hole. Despite the doubts of many, Art Bell and his listeners kept an open mind. A few days after their first conversation, Art reached out to Mel for an update. Mel had another astonishing story to share, this time from a neighbor who claimed to have seen a dark beam of light shooting up from the hole, cutting through the clouds in a way that was both strange and terrifying. This bizarre event, along with other odd things happening in the area, kept fueling the ongoing discussions and wild theories among Art Bell's audience and beyond. People started reporting strange sightings like UFOs and unexplained disappearances. The conversation soon shifted to even weirder ideas. Some folks believed the hole was located on something called a ley line, an invisible energy line running through the earth. They speculated that this hole could be a gateway to other places or even different times. One theory suggested that anything thrown into the hole, like garbage, broken items, and unfortunately even animals, might be sent to another universe. Someone even mentioned that the hole could lead to the hollow earth, an ancient idea of a vast world inside our planet, like a giant underground cave. As these ideas spread, more theories popped up. Art Bell, who was stuck overseas, asked the locals for their thoughts. An elderly neighbor recalled large stone columns that once stood around the hole. People in the area warned Mel not to talk about the hole on the radio, fearing it might attract unwanted attention from the government. Despite warnings, Mel kept sharing updates, which led to his sudden disappearance. The mysterious case of Mel and the hidden hole. But Mel didn't listen to the warnings. He promised to share more updates on the radio show. However, when it was time for his return, he mysteriously vanished and no one could reach him. A TV crew went to Ellensburg to investigate, but couldn't find any sign of the hole. Instead, they came across military documents that hinted at possible government interest in the area. 3 years later, Mel revealed that he was offered $3 million a year to let the military use his land, with the condition that he leaves the U.S. for good. He accepted the offer and moved to Australia for 2 years. Missing his family and home, Mel secretly returned to the U.S. to visit his relatives. It was a risky move as he tried to learn more about the mysterious hole. Despite the dangers, he managed to visit his family and planned to reveal more on Art Bell's radio show. But things took a turn for the worse when a confrontation on a bus led to police involvement, complicating his efforts even further. Then, things got even stranger. Mel suddenly fainted and woke up 12 days later in a San Francisco alley, feeling scared and confused. His wallet was gone, His arm was covered with sore injection marks, and he was missing 2 teeth. But that wasn't the worst part. He also lost his land and faced government accusations of illegal building. When Mel tried to contact Art Bell again, he found out that his bank accounts had been emptied. While many people doubted his story, Art, who loved a good mystery, invited Mel back on his radio show. During the show, it was revealed that even though a TV crew didn't find the hole, they noticed a lot of military activity in the area.
But where Mel's hole had a stone retaining wall of a few feet, this second hole had a metal collar and metal lining down as far as the eye can see, and this hole was warm to the touch.
On top of that, a strange new rule was in place. No aircraft were allowed to fly over Mel's property, and satellite images of the area online were blocked out, showing as black squares. Afterward, Mel decided to look into another strange hole in Nevada. This discovery didn't come to light until 6 months after his first talk with Art Bell, which seemed to add credibility to his story. But just when it seemed things couldn't get more bizarre, a Native American tribe from Nevada reached out to Mel. They were dealing with a strange hole of their own and hoped Mel could help them understand it. Eager to find answers, Mel traveled to Nevada to investigate with the tribe and a group called Forest, careful to stay away from any secretive deals with the media or the government. As Mel dug deeper into this new mystery, one big question remained. What was hidden at the bottom of these odd holes? His journey continued, uncovering more mysteries not just on his own land, but also in a distant place. In a local gathering, people from the Basque region, originally from the border between France and Spain, shared their story. By the 19th century, these settlers had moved to Nevada and started raising sheep. Their history became tied to Mel's discoveries, adding yet another layer to the unfolding events. For over 200 years, a deep hole had fascinated the local people, who thought it was a special place. The hole was about 9 feet wide and reminded some of the famous Mel's Hole, but it had its own unique features. The edge of the hole was lined with a shiny metal, different from anything they had seen before. Deep in Nevada, Mel discovered another strange hole with eerie secrets, discovering Basque's mystical hole. Mel, the person who discovered this strange hole, noticed an unusual warmth coming from its depths. One day, when he accidentally dropped a tool and it hit the metal edge, it made no sound at all. It was as if the noise was swallowed by the hole. Curious about this, Mel and the Basque community decided to investigate further. They started by lowering a bucket of ice into the hole, which went down about 300 meters. They kept another bucket of ice on the surface to compare. When they pulled the bucket back up, the ice inside was still solid, dry, and had a texture like salt crystals. But when they tried to melt it with fire, it didn't just melt. It actually caught fire and burned for a long time. They noticed that the ice didn't always behave the same way. Sometimes it melted like normal, but other times it turned into something that could burn. Everyone agreed that climbing down into the hole was too dangerous, so they decided on another strange experiment. They would send a sheep down into the hole. Though it seemed like a strange idea, they went ahead with it. The sheep was very nervous and resisted going down into the unknown. It almost seemed like it could sense something bad was going to happen. Being careful, they put the sheep in a box and lowered it about 1,000 feet into the hole. Suddenly, the rope went loose, and they heard a strange humming sound. After waiting anxiously for 30 minutes, they pulled the box back up. What they found was disturbing. The sheep was dead. This event shook everyone to their core, filling them with fear and a sense of dread. They realized they were dealing with something far beyond their understanding, something that could have serious consequences. But this wasn't the worst part. Despite their fear, the community couldn't resist the urge to learn more about this mysterious hole. They continued to explore, driven by both fear and fascination, trying to uncover more secrets hidden in the depths. Something unusual happened in the Basque community, where people are known for their skills in sheep herding.
And then he started to notice other strange things about the hole. His dogs wouldn't go near it. It caused his radio to pick up strange signals.
They decided to check inside one particular sheep to see what was wrong. Inside, they found the sheep's organs looked like they had been heated, and a large growth filled much of its body. But things got even stranger. The growth started to move on its own. When they cut it open, they were shocked to find a creature inside. It looked a bit like a seal, but wasn't exactly the same. The creature was connected to the growth by something like an umbilical cord. Even more surprising, it had eyes that looked human. The creature began to move toward the edge of the table by itself. Mel, sensing that the creature wanted to go back to where it came from, carefully picked it up. It felt sticky and had a unique smell, like the air after a storm. He placed it near the opening from where it had likely come. But this wasn't the end of the story. The creature gave them one last look before jumping back into the deep hole. After this, Mel started to experience more strange things, leading to some incredible discoveries. Before all this happened, Mel had been struggling with severe throat cancer, and the doctors didn't think he had much chance of survival. But after these strange events, his cancer mysteriously disappeared. Not only that, but he also felt stronger and healthier than ever before. It seemed like this experience had not only cured him, but changed his life completely. Mel had ventured into the unknown and came back changed. Later on, he returned to a radio show called Coast to Coast to talk about more experiences, especially the weird outcomes of some experiments they did with a type of ice that could burn. Back in Bosque, a bizarre fire from mysterious ice causes endless chaos. The devastating fire that wouldn't quit. One resident of Bosque had brought a piece of this strange ice into his house, and what happened next was bizarre. The fire from the ice wouldn't go out, burning for months and drying out the air in the house by soaking up all the moisture. But this wasn't the worst part. The resident became extremely dehydrated, always thirsty, and couldn't even boil water because the steam would get absorbed by the never-ending fire. In a completely unexpected twist, the wood stove that was heated by this strange ice eventually fell through the floor of the cabin, leaving more questions than answers about what really happened. Instead of fixing the cabin floor the usual way, they just covered the gap with a temporary piece and kept using the strange flame. But things got even weirder. A few weeks later, the entire cabin turned to dust. When the owner came back with his brother, they found something bizarre. The stove had sunk 5 feet into the ground, almost as if the strange fire had created a bottomless pit. The ground beneath the stove was unusually smooth. They needed a giant crane to lift the stove out. But that wasn't the most surprising part. Locals started sharing stories about a mysterious seal that emerged from the gap. They believed it was a friendly spirit connected to the strange powers of the hole. Brightly colored birds gathered around the gap, and no matter how hard people tried to scare them away, they wouldn't leave. The locals thought these birds were a good sign, maybe even a gift from the mysterious seal.
I think that was a pretty neat exploration. I can't see what was down there yet. I could only see the camera going down on the rope.
But things got even stranger when people reported hearing the seal's voice through a series of beeps and clicks on the radio, warning them about the dangers of the fiery frost. Art Bell, a radio show host, wanted proof, and the locals said they had recordings. Mel, the man behind the story, was asked to come back to the show to talk about these new events, but then he suddenly vanished. 5 years later, the story still lingers, full of what-ifs and wild possibilities. But what can really be proven? The exact location of the hole is still unknown. Some satellite images showed a dark spot, but nothing definite. Fans have tried to find the hole using Mel's descriptions, but the closest they've come is an abandoned well. Mel himself remains a mystery. There are no records of him in the area he mentioned. Some people think he used a fake name. Despite all his stories, there are no photos or solid evidence of the hole's existence. Mel always had an excuse for why he couldn't provide pictures, saying cameras wouldn't work near the hole. Even though his stories were unbelievable, Mel never tried to make money from them. Some think he couldn't keep up with his made-up stories, which is why he disappeared. But still, for 5 years, Mel stuck to his original tale. The idea of a hole going on for miles without collapsing is hard to believe. It's a puzzle that doesn't seem to fit. Yet some people still believe in Mel's Hole. In 2017, a group of explorers used the latest technology to try to find it. They came across a farm with what seemed like an endless pit. They threw stones in, listening for any sound of a bottom, but their search only left them more confused. It felt like someone or something was watching them, so they left quickly without even checking their recordings. But this wasn't the end of the mystery. It only deepened the uncertainty. What do you think? Is Mel's Hole real or just an elaborate hoax? Like this video, leave your thoughts in the comments and don't forget to subscribe for more.